struggle.
It was really, really rough. And then you just, sometimes you gotta fight through those 6 years. We should ask the Cowboys what 6 years feels like to them.
It must feel like a second in comparison.
I will say this. I think we should encourage gambling.
Dear God.
That's
for the intro of the broadcast.
Dear God.
I think we should encourage Huntertain betting his life savings on the Patriots to win the Super Bowl.
There's several questions to follow up, but what is he betting? Just on the win, the money line, the over?
Just the win. The win. I don't do any of that extra shit. The win.
Hunter, don't do it.
I'm not responding.
I don't know. The Seahawks have had pretty bad history against the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
They have.
Did y'all see that thing where the fucking every single time a new pope is elected, the Seahawks make the Super Bowl?
Makes sense.
And that probably
it's happened 3 times. That's kind of crazy.
No, I win either way. Either Travion Henderson wins a title or the Seahawks win a title. So
yeah, that adds up.
The Seahawks made it to the Super Bowl, but the Pope actually could have had some divine intervention this time around because he's a Bears fan. He's a publicly a Bears fan.
He did to an extent.
Well, he's from Chicago. The Chicago people are a fan of the Chicago teams. To come hell or high water.
Depends on if you're on the north side or the south side.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know anything about Chicago besides the fact that apparently Michelle Obama comes from O Block, which is notorious gang area. So my headcanon is that Michelle Obama is a gang leader.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, let's stop that there and actually get started. Oh, dear God.
I wanted to end it at gambling.
I started with gambling. I started.
Oh, I thought we were going for a bit.
No, I started with gambling. Oh dear God. Oh God.
Next week when we're sponsored by
insert
company here. I'm not even gonna give them brand recognition. Insert company here.
There's several.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Did you see there? Listen, I'm tangenting this one more time before we start. Did y'all see? There's the one app. I don't even remember the name of it, so I'm not even gonna have to worry about name dropping it. But they let you bet on the most random shit. Is just will LeBron wave at somebody today or some shit like that?
Ouchie, baby. Will XQC beat the Minecraft record by January 31st?
If you're using Kalshi, that's your sign to call the fucking helpline.
I have never gambled, sports betting or otherwise in my life, so
that is smart. That's smart.
I've never gambled.
However, in Texas, it is completely banned. So my broadcast partner may or may not have dropped $300 on some gambling stuff before we left Columbus, but may or may not. Can't confirm or deny.
Can't confirm, deny. But I mean, there might be more money heading to his account in the coming days.
Yeah.
That's if he wins. If not, then he just donated $300 to a charity.
A good cause. Yeah, good cause.
Yeah, good cause. Someone's bank account.
Charitable.
Yes. Yeah.
Charitable cause. All right, let's actually get this podcast started now. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 51 of For the Love of Prod. As always, I'm joined by Huntertain and Megalass, and our guest this week is Llama. Llama, thank you so much for being on, man. I know we've been trying to get you on for a little bit now, but you have been very, very busy, and it's something that we're going to probably talk about a little bit later on in the podcast, but for very, very good reasons, you've been incredibly busy.
Yeah, unfortunate. I've been looking forward to this, but some other things have come in the way, so happy to be here.
Yeah. So right now, I want you to give an opportunity to kind of give a small introduction of yourself for people who might not know you, and basically all I'm asking is tell us the role you normally fill and what games you normally cast in.
Sure. Yeah, so my now full-time job that I've graduated college from Ohio State is I work as a freelance esports and sports commentator and live event MC. So everything with sports and esports, I work from play-by-play to color. Any game title you can probably name, I've probably covered it, other than some fighting games. But my main titles: Rocket League, Apex, Valorant, Overwatch, and then some more on the branching out in the Counter-Strike side. But I basically work as a broadcaster, and then some days I do production stuff. I work through ESPN and Big Ten Network, not only doing commentary stuff, but also doing like the behind-the-scenes camera work, graphics operating, and such.
I think you're actually the first person that we've had on that has actually. Okay, no. Let me rephrase that. You're the second person that we've had on that has actually worked in traditional sports.
Sure.
But you're the first person that we've had on that's actually been a broadcaster, or like you said, an MC in those traditional sports. The other person we've had on is just a producer for it. Not necessarily. God, this is going to sound so bad. He's not necessarily doing it at your level where you're doing it for ESPN and Big Ten. He's doing it for small collegiate wood bat team in the middle of Kansas. But hey, still counts.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later here. But as always, whenever we have a guest on, we normally ask 2 questions. And while you kind of answered it a little bit in that intro, I want to give you the floor here to kind of tell us what got you into doing production, and more specifically, what got you into doing esports production.
Yeah, so my story starts back in high school. I was a avid cross country runner. I was putting in like 20 miles a week after school, and my junior year of high school, it was kind of the season leading up to the cross country season. I hadn't got really back into the full swing of things, but I was running on my own in summer before practice had started, and 1 or 2 weeks into the school semester, I come home. I had run like 5 miles that day. I take my regular shower, and I've got this like shooting pain in my left side. And I can't walk. I'm on the couch, and that ends up being 6 months of me like not being able to physically like walk around the house and like literally needing a cane to hobble over. And eventually they're like, okay, what's going on? I went to the hospital 4 times in 10 days right after that injury. And like they did every scan possible. They put me like through a CT machine, X-ray, and they're like, what are you talking about, pain? There's nothing. We see nothing. There's nothing on any of the scans. And so they eventually diagnosed me with ghost pain and said that basically like I was too stressed out. And because my brain was saying, no, I'm not stressed out, it was pushing it somewhere else in my body. So I was stressed out, whatever, but the main thing was my high school's solution to all that was to fail me out of every single one of my classes. So I exited high school. I rebounded my senior year, but it didn't really matter. I exited high school with a 2.6 GPA, and I was like, okay, I'll apply to some colleges, and all 5 of my dream schools I got denied from. So I was sitting there in the summer of my senior year after high school, and I'm like, I don't know what am I gonna do with my life? Like I just got denied from college. Do I was thinking about military for a little bit, and I started streaming that summer beforehand and had gotten a lot into Apex Legends. I was very, very good. I'd gotten top 500 a few different times. And I'm like, maybe I try like going somewhere to play Apex Legends. Like, is that even a thing? And so I found Ohio Northern University. I talked to their director there, and he was like, come and visit again, because I had visited the first time and he wasn't in the office that day. So I'm like, okay, sure, I'll come back and visit. Like, I had already been denied from that school. I wasn't been expecting much. And I got there, and he's like, I read your like entrance story. I read your like 1-page paper that you wrote or whatever on like how you got injured and what you've been going through. And he's like, I know nothing about Apex. You do. If you help me build an Apex program, you pick the 6 best players, I will push you through. And so I was a scholarship athlete for Ohio Northern University for 2 years playing Apex Legends. And I was super thankful for that because it got me in. And then that kind of shifted my focus away from high school and allowed my grades to get better and better. But at that kind of 1.5 year mark, a new president came in, cut the university budget and cut the esports budget by 75%. So my team and 6 others were basically gone along with our scholarships almost overnight. So I decided to get a little bit more into production of the broadcast side, and Ohio Northern had a really good broadcast studio there, and that's where I got my first experience of it and decided to pursue it full time.
I mean, one, ghost pain sounds like a real, like, is it really prescribed as ghost pain or diagnosed as ghost pain, or is it phantom pain?
Kind of, yeah, both. But like, it just wasn't there on any scans. So
It, okay, now it's been. I'm follow-up question to that. Now it's been a couple years. Has it actually been diagnosed as something, or was it just has it kind of just faded away?
So I went through this program at the local like children's hospital near me. That was like a kind of all around program. They gave me some like heavy pain medication. They gave me some other like breathing exercises and acupuncture and all these things together to kind of reduce it over time. So I'm no longer on that medication. I've kind of controlled it to a point, and I don't usually have it anymore unless it's like a super stressful day, and it's kind of like I learned how to deal with that and maybe learned how to not stress myself out so much.
Yeah. But I mean, so here's the thing: whenever we have someone come in here and who's really good at what they do, and they all say, "Oh yeah, I'm also top 500 in this game," it just feels like I immediately feel like, "Oh God, is this why I suck?" Like Hunter can attest to it, Mega can attest to it. I'm probably the worst player here at Overwatch of the three of them.
What? Oh,
Hunter, you've won something. The
Yeah.
trophy's sitting literally behind you on the wall. Mega's a
Yeah,
scholar.
yeah,
I don't know if she's
sure.
scholarship, but she's on a collegiate esports team. More than I've ever been a part of. So I definitely say they're better players than me. It's always really funny because like we've had this argument, or not argument, but we've had the conversation before. It's like if you're really good at the game, normally that can really translate well to being a caster or someone who really works on production, because you can be able to explain it a little bit more in depth, other than just say me, God, a fucking diamond player at best, trying to cast maybe some of the best players in North America some nights.
Yeah, I think it helps to a point, but it's also like I think it's just that feeling of like you understand what they're going through more than anything. And like I do Rocket League as my most title. I haven't played more than 10 games of Rocket League ranked in my entire career. So it's kind of like, it does transfer over somewhat from Apex of that competitive mindset, but I think it's also it's two-handed. It's not just a one.
I would say I fall in that same boat with Rocket League ranked. Maybe I would say 75 ranked games all time. I haven't touched it in about a year and a half. But Rocket League, I feel like I've always argued that Rocket League is probably that esport title that if you're a traditional sports fan, if you want to try to get into esports, Rocket League's probably the easiest way for you to get introduced to it, because it's just soccer or hockey if you want us to talk about like that. There is snow days, but there's not a professional snow days scene as far as I know. But like that's always the one that feels like, hey, that's the intro to esports. After that, figure out you can go wherever you want. You want to go fighters, go that way. MOBAs, arena shooters, hero shooters, tactical shooters, chess apparently.
Yeah,
is an esport. I'm still honestly surprised it's an esport, but you know what? I'm not going to argue with it. But Rocket League's just so fun and so bare bones with everything. Granted, there is a lot of like technical terms that, or not technical terms, but just terms you should know if you're going to be casting it. But like, I feel like Hunter's casted a couple times. I want to cast it more. I'm disappointed that I only cast it like times last year. But it's just always a blast to do.
Yeah, it's exciting. I need to do it a little bit more myself, but obviously in the state that we're at this time of the year, it's really hard to do anything but Overwatch.
Yeah.
That will probably not be the case here in a couple of weeks, where we'll probably be more free and get those opportunities to do that. But as of right now, just not possible. There's no way to fit that in right now.
All right. Well, let's get into the second part of the question. We asked you what got you in, what keeps you coming back. Granted, like you have already mentioned, is your job. It is your job now.
That's true.
But before it was like your full-time job, what really kept you coming back to it?
I think the cool thing about esports is I've always now loved to tell stories, especially from the beginning, and getting to tell other people's stories that like their story wouldn't have been told if it weren't for me. And getting to see that, especially in esports, you get, I mean, a lot of kids that on esports teams, especially through high school, middle school, they probably wouldn't be on a regular sports varsity team. So this is their chance to make friends, and this is our chance to kind of tell their story, humanize them where they're from, and honestly getting to see the support at all the structural levels is what keeps me coming back, and also the parents. I mean, I kind of go to some of the sports broadcasts I did last year where I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be covering swimming for Big Ten Network. And I end up doing this swimming broadcast, and like dozens of parents come up to me and they're like, "Thank you for doing this because no one has been broadcasting our matches all year long." And like, you are the one voice that is telling the stories of 8 different schools that are there. So getting to see the support from the parents, and then also just getting to see different players from all around the world from different regions just keeps me coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. But absolutely with that, and I'll say like me and Hunter, with doing face, especially in South America, like there is always a great turnout for that, and there's been a lot of we've been able to connect with coaches, we've been able to connect with managers and players there who are really appreciated for us that we are broadcasting their region, because outside of maybe 1 or 2 people in South America, no one showcases their games. So like we've been able to build up a little audience with that, and we really do love all the players down there because honestly they're really good players, they're really fun to watch, but they're all just so incredibly nice. Uh, and it makes us want to keep coming back to it. But there, funny thing is, you talk about parents coming up to you and saying like, "Hey, thank you for doing this." We had Joker's Ransom on. I think at this point now we're almost nearing a year since Joker's Ransom has been on, but he told us that one of the lands he did was a high school land in New York, and the amount of parents that came up to him and just thanked him for doing it was like this big eye opener for him because he didn't expect it. Like he said it. I think he said it was like one of his favorite memories from just any cast, because people were coming up saying, "Hey, thank you." And I think one asked for a picture with their like son or daughter from it, because it was like, "Oh yeah, here's the dude who was calling your game." Like it's this wild thing to really think that, like you said in your case with swimming, like no one's broadcasting it. You were there to broadcast it and show it off a little bit more, and that goes a long way in people's minds.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting too to see, especially in the esports side, when I've had similar scenarios like that, like parents supporting it, even if they don't really quite understand it. Like they don't know all these different heroes that are flying around in Overwatch or what really is happening. Most of them understand Rocket League, but they're still supporting it, and they understand when, there's these state championships that it's just the same as like a Division 1 sports title in high school. Like they are playing for not only themselves, but the school as a whole. And getting to see like some of the crowds that turn out for some of the high schools I broadcast for, that like they put up their broadcast in the gymnasium after school, and you've got hundreds of students coming in to watch their esports team play, is pretty cool.
And like I I so badly want to go to one of those. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any high school around me that does it, but there's like I imagine you could easily find on like Twitter one of those videos of like, oh yeah, insert state name high school's Rocket League team plays, and it's just a full gym of people, and it's like, wow, it's giving me hope that this is growing outside or below in the lower before you get to college, in high school and middle school. Hopefully, honestly, I'm gonna say this: I hope esports isn't necessarily growing in elementary schools. Let's get through elementary school first. But like the fact that you're seeing the competitive play happen early on, I think is a really good thing, because we always talk about, especially with this podcast, even though we more focus on the production side of it, you're starting, getting the practice in young. You're starting getting that team play in young, in that competitive environment young, which I think just means more longevity for the esport, which is always a good thing.
Absolutely. And I think it is like you do get into some of like the politics around it, where like almost every single esports broadcast, the game title has to get approved by the administration. So it's like, well, there's not going to be as many opportunities as if like you go out into the world and play all these open tournaments, but there are still some fun opportunities.
Yeah, like the funny thing is, like the college I went to at East Tennessee State, we were asked so many times, why was there not a Rainbow Six team, and why was there not a CS team? And it was specifically because it was too realistic to an extent, where the program director and the people above him did not want that being shown off, especially CS, because the teams are called terrorist and counter-terrorist. That was the big one there.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I take the example of Ohio State. They've got literally one of the top 6 Call of Duty collegiate teams in the entire country, and they can't perform under the Ohio State banner or use any Ohio State logos because they're not an official like team because the university doesn't approve it.
And it was like the same. It was the same thing with Arizona State, right? Where they had like a lot of top teams in a lot of games, but the school absolutely hated them, so they just became like Sun Devil Esport instead. Like, it's unfortunate because I know in Overwatch they were a really good program for a couple years, always like getting on the homecoming streams, but they couldn't actually be recognized as Arizona State, which I'm sitting there thinking like this, you're actively taking away good promotion from your school in this moment because you're not allowing them to use your branding. Like it's horrible.
But I also understand it. I mean, from an administrator's perspective, and like, it's just like the question of like, where do you put esports under the collegiate umbrella? Because like, if you put it under athletics, are then like esports getting valued to like the ticket sales sports, and like that's the reason they're getting cut, or do you put them under something else? So it's a whole mess, and obviously it's still in its young stages relatively.
Yeah, I think a good kind of litmus or good kind of one to watch here is Boise State and their esports program, because I believe it was this semester they became part of athletic, where everything else I think they were operated as a club. I think.
Yeah.
I feel like I know at my school or my old school, East Tennessee State, it was under the computing department.
Yeah.
So our main sponsor was the online version of the online school. That was the main sponsor. That was the thing they most advertised on, was the esports team, which was really funny because I don't think they ever made anything back on it. But it's very interesting just to see how everything's changing, because I feel like in these last 4 years, and really could just probably say since COVID, you're starting to see more high school esports teams or esports leagues happen, especially in all the states. I know there's one in Washington. North Carolina has one with Vessel. I hate that they got rid of Overwatch, but
Hmm.
I think Georgia had one at a point. South Carolina, I don't think has one, but I know there's other states out there that have like actual state ran or state athletic ran esports leagues, which is really, really good.
Yeah, I think it's good for everyone. I mean, like you said, you get to start them early. I think for the schools, there's not too much of a downside, right? You can use those PCs for other things too.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like if they're strong PCs, you could always use them for, like you said, anything else. Like my high school, they had a drafting class. Those are, you need programs to run anything with CAD. You need strong stuff. Normally, gaming PCs. While you don't, I wouldn't recommend you use them for that. You do need strong PCs for that. Hell, there's always going to be at least some graphic design class that uses stuff, so you're going to need them at some point. Um, but like Hunter, and Hunter and Mega, because I imagine, especially with your guys', I know Mega at least has done a little bit of work in TEC, and that one, goes from college to high school to maybe just random tournaments as well, where it kind of like, here's everyone. You get high schoolers, middle schoolers, and else. Like, I had the question.
You got this. I have faith in you. I have total faith in you, Dex. You got this.
Now, like, is there necessarily a push from you guys and to want to get into stuff below the collegiate level? Because right now, I think the collegiate level is a great spot if you're in it already. Hard to get into, I will say that, but like, there's the stuff below it where, I mean, we've all, I think, I've done at least one high school thing, which I think, I'm not gonna say weird to say, but it's a good thing to see it. Would you guys want to necessarily, get into that high school level, or just kind of try to keep getting into college? And Llama, you can answer this as
I think it's kind of both. I mean, I think like the high school level is probably going to be a little bit more stable than college as of right now, just because, again, you're dealing with a lot of administration more at the college level, and everything has to kind of be routed back. Where for TEC, a lot of their like payment for the schools is from like government funded technology programs where the schools aren't really having to be the biggest bearer of that budget.
Hmm.
And I think for me personally, like stability is in both of those. You have to kind of find that even mark. And I think high school has less stories, but it also has like you have kids that are starting younger, so you get to tell their story. But I also think it's somewhat of like a fine line. As much as I love being like a hero or like the broadcaster for these kids, I don't necessarily want to be like interjecting myself straight into their life. I still want to have that kind of separation from like broadcast to student type deal, and that's kind of easier, I'd say, from the college level to kind of merge those two.
Yeah, I think I would agree in that sense right there. Because when I did TEC before, that is what we did. Is it was mainly high school teams that we were uh, casting during that time, and I'm pretty sure that's very much still the case. And hopefully, maybe later this year will be the same case. But um, for me, I'm happy going either way. But there is something about that collegiate level that, as you said, it is hard to get into. If you're already into it, that's fantastic. But it's hard to kind of break out into. I think we've both had our experiences. Probably everyone has had their own share of experiences of having to get into that space and working our way through it. Um, so, like I said, I'm happy either way. But honestly, that collegiate level is something that'd be really fun to get involved with, especially as I like the way our scene. Even though if people will say, "Hey, the Overwatch scene is dead," I don't think it's dead. I think it's slowly rising back up from those ashes, and I would love to see these collegiate teams and what they can do.
And I think it's super interesting that like in sports, you have NCAA, which
Hmm.
is the heading organization of all sports from Division 1 to Division 3. Well, in esports, you've got like 5 different collegiate leagues that are all trying to become the NCAA. And let me tell you, one of them is eventually going to win. I don't think we're going to have all these different ones. Eventually, they're either going to have to merge together or sort of talk it out amongst themselves, which is hard because all of them, right, have money involved in it. Students are paying to play in their league. So I think it's tough right now to really tell administrators to say, okay, we won a national championship. And it's like, okay, but there's 5 national championships for both fall and spring each and every year. What does that like mean to us?
Hmm. No,
No,
exactly. Oh, no, go ahead,
no,
please.
I was gonna say you're absolutely right. Like it's like, what does that mean? And I'll say this: there was one time where my school made it to a national championship game, and we sold it as if it was the biggest thing, as if it was the number one thing in the world. Granted, it was like, okay, here's the second lowest division, but the program director literally sold it to the school as like, hey, we are playing for a big thing here because they wanted to kind of show that the program was growing. And hey, if the school did not look into it at all, they said they heard national championship and basically put a lot of support behind us. Granted, it wasn't like it had more students come out, but it was more like, hey, there's a recognition from staff that it was a big thing. And you're absolutely right with saying that, like, it's hard to kind of tell what is like the top, considering how many different leagues there are. You have NACE, you have CECC, which actually no, CECC is just a big conglomerate of them all. You have
Yeah.
wait, what? It's PLC, PCL,
Something
NECC,
like that.
NECC, ECC. Like, there's so
Yeah.
many different esports uh, companies or esport leagues in for collegiate that it's almost like you said, it gets to a point where it's kind of just almost hard to take in because you'll have your big name teams and programs playing in all of them, and a lot of times they're just playing in them because they know they're almost easy to win at. Like, we've had this conversation with other people in the past who have really worked a lot in collegiate, and it says like, would it be beneficial for the NCAA to necessarily say, hey, we're going to try to take over a little bit and get something established, a hierarchy? But then we thought about that for a little bit, and just everything else the NCAA has done is like, that's probably the worst idea you could ever have.
I mean, it's tough though too because like although the schools aren't playing in person, they don't have that limitation of like flying or driving to play against each other. Like what sports was built upon is like you have these different regions around the United States, and like you have these rivalries that have been built up for 200 years. And like it surprised me that esports has not tapped more into that. And I know it's tough when you have, like, you take the Big Ten, for example, there's half the schools who are varsity programs, half who are not. You've got Michigan State, who's like one of the biggest esports schools in the country, and then you have like Michigan, their little baby brother, who's like on a club program. So it's like it's still pretty tough.
Yeah, and I was gonna say thank you for bringing that up. Michigan State, I remember this. I think it was this past year, the week they played Michigan in football. Michigan State esports had Michigan esports come up to them, and they celebrated absolutely kicking the ever living shit out of them. Because if you're the casual fan or just a casual like person who went to school, you're just saying, hey, esports team killed our rivals. It's a great day. You're celebrating hard for that if you really do care about that stuff. And it's like, Michigan State, didn't they also have UCLA esports fly out to Lansing when the football team played them? Like, Michigan State's done a lot. I'll say that. They've done a lot, but like you said, big program. Ohio State, they're not varsity, right? Like you said, or are they? But
No, a club.
They still have a huge like setting for it, a huge room, at least facility, I'll say, on campus.
Yep, second biggest facility in the Big Ten.
Bigger than my school's, who is an official varsity program.
Yeah.
But like the fact that we've started to see some of these teams, especially rivalries, where the esports teams are going to say like, "Hey, let's work together. Let's do an event at one of the schools." I think that's great for college. It's one thing that I always try to argue, like, hey, I know our rival's like 2 hours away. Just get them to come up here, or we go down there. We need to do something like this to gauge more interest into the program, because that will get eyes on it, because people will just say, oh, we hate them.
Yeah. And I think that's huge, right? You need to build out those rivalries, but then it also, I mean, it taps into the other problem again of like, how is this making money, right? If we're paying to fly this team out, if we're trying to ignite these rivalries, like, is that coming from the athletics budget? Because they're not getting ticket sales back. Maybe they're getting 10 viewers on their Twitch channel or whatever, but that's not going to pay for it, like a team flying out. So it kind of adds those different discussions, and like that's why you see some programs dropping like flies, as they put this kind of investment in to almost draw in recruiting and build the hype around it, and then they kind of can't tell the administration why they're kind of spending all this money.
You're absolutely right about that. Like, I'll say this. When my school built the esports facility, which again I think is like a 20 by 20 box in the middle of the student center on campus, they promoted as like, hey, we have a world-class esports facility on our campus. And there were signs, there were ads about it. Like, it was this big thing for them to promote it. And anytime there was a tour group going through, they would always stop at the esports arena and say, here's our esports arena. And you would always get 2 or 3 people to come in and say, oh, what games do you play? Like, granted, if it's doing that and it's helping get interest in the school, great. But that, like you said, the investment into it is so big that a lot of schools necessarily want to see that investment or return on that investment very quickly. They find out also very quickly that it's not there with esports.
Right. Yeah.
But let's get back onto the route here of just prod for a quick moment here. So when you first got started with esports, we'll talk about traditional sports a little bit later, but when you first got started with esports, like, what was the big thing for you that really just kind of pushed you to get along with it? You kind of said like, hey, it was Ohio Northern where you brought in an Apex team and kind of got started with that. But outside of like when you started to branch out with it, like, what was the first thing that like kind of pushed you to want to find more opportunity?
I mean, it was honestly kind of a pursuit of a career. I mean, at that point, Ohio Northern was much more expensive than Ohio State, and I'm like, how am I gonna pay for all these student loans I had to take out and whatnot? So I'm like, why not try to get more diverse through broadcast work? Because I knew at least covering Apex only was not going to be enough. I could grind my way. I could put in 40 hours a week doing Apex scrims and stuff. Would that get me to the pro league? Probably not. And so I needed to better myself in all those different areas. So I kind of learned production at the starter end to diversify my skills, and then branching out to, again, give myself just more opportunities, kind of removing the chance of luck from the entire equation.
And I mean, I'll say that I think that's always a smart thing to do. Just making sure you kind of know a little bit of everything when it comes to production. Like that's been one thing I think me and Hunter, I've learned more Hunter than me in this past year, because he's had to learn everything when it comes to observing, producing, making sure everything's fine, making sure the sound levels are all good. Like that is something that's very, very hard to do if you've never done it before. And like the first time you do it, you will mess up. But it's just like but it's like with everything. The first time you do anything, you're not going to do it right. There's going to be problems. There's going to be mistakes. You just learn from it and move on. But like when you decide to necessarily kind of move away from Apex or look for other stuff from Apex, what was the first kind of step for you? Was it like, I know a little bit about this game, I want to do that? Or is it like someone reached out to you saying like, hey, are you available to do like X game on this day?
So I actually have to give a lot of credit to two people. First, there was a Apex Legends EMEA broadcaster at the time named Zephyr. He currently does a bunch of collegiate stuff. He was on ALGS Pro League for last year's North American version, but I had kind of connected with him through Apex, and I had watched him for a couple of years. And I followed him and I sent him a message, and I'm like, you know what? You look successful. Do you have any tips for a lowly broadcaster like me? And I had sent him that message. He told me, first lesson, don't send people messages at 3 a.m. But I sent him the message at 3 a.m. and he immediately, no response, called me on Discord. So I picked up and he said, like, diversify yourself, try learning other things. He told me he had come from League of Legends and he had kind of learned to love Apex and gotten better and better at it. So I took that advice to heart. I jumped into Broadcast GG, this server that he just sent me. Then I'm like, oh, cool, broadcast opportunities. And I found this company called Frost Esports that would run a Rocket League weekly every single week, and met this producer named Nick NCS. And he said the same thing of just keep learning new things. Nick was best friends with Zephyr, come to find out, but he had also fallen from League of Legends and went into Rocket League stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I should follow in both their paths and learn every single thing I can. So that eventually pushed me into two opportunities, the Rocket League as a starter in Frost Esports, and then for a Rust Base Invaders kind of weekly tournament as well.
Rust is so interesting. Like, and I'll get back to like taking any opportunity, any game. But Rust is, as a game, is so interesting because you have that, I think is a very weird esports scene for it. And then you have what probably a lot of people know Rust for, which is just a normal kind of gameplay for it. The esports scene, especially in a game like that, is so, so interesting because it's like they never intended it to be an esport. It's like one of our friends covers Dead by Daylight. Never intended to have an esport. Has an esport. Is I think about to have their first LAN ever with backing from the developers of the game, which is insane. But it's those games, like, you never expect to have them. Then there's just this community that builds it up itself and starts to become like this really almost fully legitimate thing, but there's enough people that care about it enough to keep it going. It's very, very fun to see those kind of communities because they're so passionate about the game.
Yeah, and that's what it is with Rust. I mean, you get a lot of players from around the world, a lot of Russian players that, were just regular PvPers and whatever certain day, and they love to play these kind of one-off tournaments that happen. I do it now every couple weeks, every couple of Sundays over there.
And I'll say this, going back to the other thing, which is taking any opportunity, any game. Like, we've had, like, I go back and forth on this a lot, and I've definitely talked about it a couple times. I've talked about it with Hunter, talked about it with Mega. Like, just kind of taking opportunities in games sometimes, maybe ones you've never necessarily done anything in, just because it's there, someone is offering it to you or someone's asking for help. And I feel like sometimes if I've never played the game, I don't necessarily want to cast it because I don't want to go in there and just kind of being almost like a dartboard or not necessarily a dartboard, but just a wall where everything's just kind of bouncing off me and I'm not necessarily understanding how everything's working. But we've also had other guests on the podcast who have came in and said, "Oh yeah, I cast these 7 games. I only play 3 of them."
Yeah.
And it's just like it's so insane in my head sometimes to think like, how do you do that? Like if I don't understand the basics of the game, I feel like I'm just gonna go in there and make the entire broadcast sound horrible.
I mean, it's kind of a middle line though. I think that there are, I'd say 90% of the titles I call for, I haven't played at like a competitive level or like played over 10 hours. And that's where like the other part of my time invested comes in, where like opportunities aren't just going to like fall in your lap. You have to, one, go out and find them, and two, make sure like you're prepared for them. When I have free time, I'm not going to scroll on social media. I'm going to pull up an old VOD of mine and research what I could have done better. Or if I'm doing Overwatch the next day, I'm looking at patch notes, or I'm trying to find more ability names that I can stick in my head. And it's just always about learning and building that knowledge level. And it's the time that you spend out of broadcast that gets you opportunities in broadcast.
Absolutely. And like I want to give a very recent example of that right there. Like looking at patch notes and just kind of maybe looking at other stuff. I had a caster friend reach out to me within the last couple of weeks, and it was they were casting Overwatch for the first time in a while, and they messaged me as I was already in a broadcast saying like, "Hey Dex, what's the meta?" And I was like, I'm not going to respond right now because I'm casting, but it's like, man, I need you to at least open the game for 5 minutes. Just play quick play really quickly. You'll figure something out. I promise you. You'll find it really, really fast. Go watch a VOD, go watch a stream of someone else's. You will figure it out really, really fast. It's those things of like, if you're going in like, and I forgot where I was going with that. Hey Hunter, what about you? What about you when it comes to this with going in blind to games?
Oh, I know this very well. So Llama, last year I casted my very first land for the first time, and you would think or hope that it was Overwatch. No, you would think like, oh, okay, he's done a few Rocket League games. He's kind of noob. That makes sense. No, I cast land for the first time casting Smash Brothers, specifically Ultimate, and up to that point, I played the game a fair amount. I know a thing or two. I'm not as knowledgeable as people that are in the scene constantly, playing in tournaments all the time. Like, I know a thing or two about a thing or two. So I casted it for the first time. Went out to Fort Wayne, Indiana, at Fortland to do that. And when I get there, I'm like, all right, I have a pretty good idea of what I want to talk about. And I get 5 minutes into that cast, I'm like, oh, I look kind of stupid right now, don't I? And it's because in that situation, what I have to do is I know my basic stuff, but this person knows. Like we had this whole conversation when we had Mott on the podcast, where some of these casters who do fighting games, they know their frame by frame things. There are terms that I've never heard of, and you have to basically pick them up in the process and go with it. And I trusted the casters that I was with; they were both phenomenal to work with. But it was that moment where I, for the first time in a very long time, felt like a fish out of water. I don't regret the experience at all. It was fun, but man, to go into that experience, I wish I could have known more. But without being able to cast more and more games, that's something that's hard to really replicate by simply playing the game. It's something you have to experience.
And it's kind of interesting, like, there are good things about that like if you're constantly pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, it's going to force you to get better because again, none of us want to look like an idiot on broadcast. But also there's there's the angle that like it's often good to have a person that like doesn't know what they're talking about. Like marginally they know what they're talking about, but I tag it back to sports. I did a couple broadcasts last year where I did a rowing broadcast and I'm like, I don't know what the heck's going on. They're rowing down a thing of water. That's what I'm going to call. And then I can ask questions to my color commentator and then they can explain it to me. And then the audience probably has that same question.
What were some of those questions?
Oh boy. I think my favorite one was all the rowers wear like different brands and different colors of like sunglasses. So I asked them, we went into like this rabbit hole about like sunglasses and they were talking about the like, oh yeah, like this one girl's favorite was like the golden pair. This one girl's favorite was like the blue pair. And they're like, but you have to have like 5 pairs in your car because like they just fly off during the race and they just sink to the bottom. There's no real getting them. So she was saying that like if you go to the bottom of that river, it's probably just like hundreds of different pairs of glasses and goggles. So.
And you have to think about it, those are probably are not cheap. Those are probably like expensive pairs of sunglasses. Like you could probably make a decent amount of money just with rental scuba gear going down there. You could probably make, I would say, $3,000 easily. Vega, what about you? When you've tried to branch out maybe to games that you've never worked in before and maybe never played, like what has been your kind of experience with that?
I mean, again, it's just about like to be in those positions. It unfortunately comes down to who you know to be in positions to even be able to do that. Because realistically, you're unless you're really good with starting off at basically a ground zero again in a brand new game, you got to come in and you got to see who you know behind the scenes and stuff like that that can get you in certain events, and then from there, like it's just like I don't know, like I know me personally, just because I want to not sound like a bumbling idiot. Like I won't really go into something I don't know. Um, which no offense, I'm not saying people who don't know are bumbling idiots, but it's just because I prefer that color commentary. Like I want to be knowledgeable, so I'm not just gonna wander into something. And I would say honestly, like the biggest thing for that with me was just Valorant. Like when I started doing Valorant, um, it's just such a different pace of game because it's one of those things where even if you bring in the knowledge, again, the game is different than what you're expecting. And so you do kind of have to shift your style ever so slightly to adapt to the new environment. And if you don't shift, then it's going to be noticeable, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you don't want to go in sounding like an absolute idiot because, like I mentioned, it feels like if you go in there not knowing anything about it and you try to sound like you know maybe a little bit about it, and it's just plain wrong, I feel like you're bringing down the entire production, maybe delegitimizing the whatever. It could just be like a friendly league between friends or a friendly match between just friends. But if you're not getting anything right, I feel like you're just making it look worse and worse and worse than what it actually is.
Yeah, it's rough. There's really no other way to put it. And bringing up like the sort of what the environment's like for the teams and stuff like that. Is it just a friendly casual league? Are we playing for multi-quintillion dollar prize pools? Are we somewhere in between? Like those kind of events do bring about different atmospheres as well that you kind of have to contend with. Because again, it's one of those things of just, you know, everybody's going to be striving for the best broadcast in the world. And so instead of just being okay with mediocrity because the broadcast maybe isn't that well known or something like that, it's just I feel like it's a recipe for failure. I feel like you should always be giving your best in any situation.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go into, I think, anything in life saying, okay, I'm just going to half-ass this, it's never going to be a good thing. And I think with all of us, with at least casting and everything else we do in esports, like we want to go in and give this our best because I've always looked at it a weird way. I've always like, hey, this, you never know. You never know what might happen in a day. This could be the last time you're ever casting for some reason or doing something. So go out on a high note. Up and Hunter decided to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Hunter definitely went out. But let's move away from that. And Llama, so let me talk with you about this because you, like you mentioned, you work in traditional sports, and it sounds like it has been a wide variety of those sports. What have you been able to take from esports over into traditional sports with anything you do in it, whether it be emceeing, the announcer, or just anything with production? What have you been able to take from esports to the traditional sport?
I think everything kind of helps everything. And, sports are actually, funny enough, a little bit slower than it feels like than esports. You leave a little bit more time, especially in your TV calls. And it's kind of taught me that like the branching out has definitely helped in learning new things. There is a lot of sportscasters, just like esports broadcasters, that are not willing to try something new. So that's part of the reason I got so many of the opportunities I did. Was I was like, okay, I'm gonna call this rowing show on a random Saturday that no one else wants to drive through the rain to get. Of course, like I'll go and do it and try it out once and see if I like it or don't like it. And it's interesting too from the production side that like I've produced my own shows on esports side, and like it's interesting when you get to the sports production side how many different people are involved in some of these even mid-scale TV shows where you have a person directing the show, a person doing replay, you have all these different camera operators that aren't just necessarily bouncing through keys on their keyboard, right? They're actually like physically handling the camera. So it's kind of a different world, but I feel like they collide at a lot of different bridge points.
Yeah, I would imagine that as well. I mean, like I said, we've had people who have done esports to traditional sports and traditional sports to esports, and I feel like always kind of said the same thing that they're like you can always be able to find so many parallels with it because whether one's faster or one's slower, like you're gonna be able to kind of find those bridges there that really. Second, Hunter,
Yeah,
did you
sorry.
really kill your cam?
No, my computer restarted itself just now, which is always fun. Always a classic feeling.
Okay, no.
Hey,
Fuck.
yeah.
Why? What the fuck? I copied and pasted. This is not me doing a bit. This is me copying and pasting your thing in. What the fuck?
Absolute cinema. Love it.
Okay.
I'm alive. Let's go. All
I was gonna
right.
say, Hunter, those hair treatments really were working out for a second.
Yeah, they were. It was close. No cigar. I'm gonna go put a hat on.
uh, but I mean, it's always so interesting because I feel like to some people, especially if you've been watching and maybe working in traditional sports for a long time, esports just kind of seems so. I don't want to say weird or like I'm gonna say I think strange might be the correct word about it. But if they were to actually sit there and maybe watch an esports production, like a high, like tier one, maybe a LAN event like that, I think they would really start to find a lot of similarities in how they actually do everything, especially if there's like cameras walking around trying to capture player angles. And like I think that you would be able to find a lot more similarities in it than maybe what one would expect coming from traditional sports into esports.
Yeah, there's still a lot of those parallels, and I mean, a lot of sports fans are esports fans. It's often a trouble for me with how many esports and sports I follow that it's like, okay, I've got 8 different screens up on my 2 monitors to try and follow every single thing I like. But I mean, that's part of the game. Again, when you're watching something like that, it's also a chance to learn. When I'm watching sports games, I'm trying to listen closer to the production, to the commentator, and what they're actually saying and doing, rather than just watching the game. And it's another chance to learn.
Quick sidebar. Who do you think right now is the best and worst broad or commentator? Or it could be anything. Could be anything. You go esports, you go traditional sports.
I won't say worst because I think everybody is at their own point in their career, and even bad broadcasters at the start or even broadcasters at the top of the stage all still are doing their hardest.
Hmm.
But I will say my best, and my best is Captain Flowers from League of Legends. I don't think anybody comes close in terms of hype, speed, and what he can deliver from a play-by-play broadcaster. And then you can kind of go to physical sports, and there's a lot of really, really good options. I think Tarico's a good option. I really like Gus Johnson, even though he can be a little bit jokey sometimes. But a lot of the football commentators, Kirk Herbstreit, all very, very good. But I think Captain Flowers is my number one.
I think a lot of us here, at least for what we normally watch, I think a lot of us play Uber, just because one really, really good at what he does. I know me on the traditional sports side, mostly because I'm a Hornets fan. I have a soft spot for Eric Collins.
Okay.
And his wild fucking calls and just like he'll pull out references to this shit and just say shit that's like, is he insane? Is this man okay? But it works because he's been doing it now for years. Like Hunter, Mega, who would you guys say is kind of up there for you?
I feel like I don't watch traditional sports, so can't help you there.
enough.
I think isn't Tom Brady a caster now? Like that
Yeah,
guy's probably either
He is getting better.
those
I will say
things.
this: he's
he,
gotten
I
a
was
lot
like
better.
he's
in
either
this 1
good or
year.
bad. Someone can decide that. But in terms of esports casters, like obviously Uber's always up there. I think as a duo, Brendan Sideshow are just one of the best duos in all of casting. Like the dynamics they have with each other, it's perfect. But for me specifically with Overwatch specifically as well, Avril is Avril is the second coming of Christ, in my humble opinion. Like, if that man opened up a church, I'd go to the church. I'd drink the soup. I'd do whatever. Drink the Kool-Aid. That's the term, not soup. Um,
I mean, no, for him it could be soup. You could say the
It might
Avril
be soup.
Avril is the church that gives you soup.
possibly.
The Church
Listen,
of Snoop. Let's go.
it could be the Church of Soup, but specifically because like this is again potentially a little tangent in here, but I don't care.
Fair enough.
Avril has this thing where that a lot of casters love to attempt to fucking replicate, but none of them can. Where, especially with Overwatch, his like sort of interjections into when a play-by-play is commentating, right? He'll have little like, "Ooh, that play's crazy," or "Ooh, this is about to happen." Like he'll have little moments where he sort of interrupts the play-by-play, not even necessarily to like talk over them or anything like that, just because he's so hyping in the moment. And it works incredibly well for him because he has the timing down pat. There are so many color casters who also try to do that, and it sounds fucking horrendous, and it makes them sound stupid. Like, Avril's the only one who's got that on lock, in my humble opinion.
Mhm.
Quick, wait, pause right there, Hunter, because
Okay.
I know I do this.
What?
I know I interject during your
And I
clip.
like that. I don't mind that.
Do
I
I
think it's fine.
do I sound stupid?
I mean, traditionally, yeah, but in that instance, no.
Thank you for saying traditionally, yeah.
No, if anything, interject more. If anything.
That's a slippery slope you probably do not want me to go.
Well, we're gonna find out. We got plenty of time for it. But for me, going esports first. For me, a name that we haven't talked about yet. Jake, someone who probably, in terms of the casters we do have for Overwatch, probably has spent most time playing the game at the highest level. And he can see that in a way that I think a lot of casters cannot see because he has been to that highest level. At the same time, now he's been on our screens for years on end now. Now he's doing other stuff. I believe he's doing the Deadlock stuff as well now. I think he's incredible at what he does. And there's nothing that I can bring out that is like a very specific trait, but it is because of just his knowledge, the way he understands this game that I think almost nobody else does. That is an extremely rare thing to have in a game like this where there is a lot going on in Overwatch. Even in the 5v5 we have now, there is still a lot going on. You have to know every single element possible. And Jake does that with ease. It feels like it's so easy, but it's hard to replicate that. In terms of regular sports, I'm echoing Llama a little bit here. I mean, born and raised in Ohio State, 28 years of my life. I've heard Gus Johnson commentate more games than any other game in my entire life, probably. Every time I think of him, I think of you got barbecue back there? It always rings in the back of my head. So that's who I have to go with.
Yeah, we got to meet Gus Johnson 2 times this year through my radio work at Ohio State. And the one time we met him, he pulled us over in the elevator. We were going down. He grabbed my one broadcast partner by the shoulder and asked him if he was a swimmer because he has very nice shoulders.
I cannot laugh, man.
I could just imagine that just in an elevator, like, "Hey, are you a swimmer, man? Got these firm shoulders."
Like, here's the thing. Obviously it's like, oh, this is like a famous commentator. Take away the name value. Think about that scenario for a second. Dude just grabs you in the elevator. Damn, you got nice shoulders. You a swimmer? Like, from a stranger? Do you realize how odd that would be?
If I'm just at the office and someone does that, it's like HR is there in 5 minutes.
Yeah, but it's Gus Johnson. Like, come on.
Gus Johnson.
It's Gus Johnson, so
it's okay.
I would have been honored for him to grab my shoulder. Come on.
I mean, I get it. I get
Shoulder
it.
grabbing.
Well, no, Hunter's absolutely right. Like, that would probably be an HR thing in any other situation. But between other people who are really other people who are into production, Gus Johnson's like, hey, yeah, like they're like doing that, yeah, perfectly fine, like absolutely perfectly fine. One last person I'll actually throw in, no longer broadcasting anymore, but I want to make sure I get the name. Doc Emmerich for hockey on. He used to be on NBC for the longest time. Finally retired. If you've ever watched any hockey game in the early 2010s, you definitely heard Doc Emmerich, and it's one of those I really take a lot from him, because if you've ever had to call hockey for more than 2 minutes, especially with some of the names that are in the NHL, that man would keep it up forever, say every last name and get it right, and just have it be going so smoothly. Like my dad always talks about, there was I think a moment in time, or there's a game we watched. There was like a 6.5 minute stretch of no stops in the hockey game,
Yep.
and Doc Emmerich was just going all 6.5 minutes, and even acknowledged it at the end of it when there was finally a stoppage. He said 6.5 minutes, and then throws it over to his color, the other guy casting with or calling the game with him.
That's incredible.
But like, I'm going to assume that probably mostly because I feel like I'm going to assume this right now, that a lot of probably your inspirations for how you got your casting style and how you cast comes from a lot of traditional sports announcers and broadcasters. Because when I first got into casting, that's what I was more accustomed to, and that's how I tried to really do it, was those traditional sports broadcaster styles. As I got into doing it a little bit more, I really had to watch more esports stuff to try to find the difference with it. And granted, there's slight differences here and there, but you can definitely take stuff from traditional sports announcing or broadcasting casting and still have it just easily fit into esports. And I like, we've already, I imagine, touched on it a little bit with some of the questions and answers you've had, but especially as someone who goes from both, like from back and forth to both here, what have you been able to take from your traditional sports broadcasting into esports to really help you out?
I mean, I think a lot of it is you get that preparation work. I think a lot of what sports broadcasts are is you don't have the nameplates above every single player for the entirety of the game, right? So you have to do your own studying, you have to do your own storylines, and there's a lot more accessible information, I'd say, out there about sports. So it kind of teaches you how to prep, because although I may spend an hour on broadcast, I want to make sure I'm matching that time with how much I'm putting in to be knowledgeable about that matchup. So I think if you go back to my broadcasts before I did sports, you'll see I was maybe not less knowledgeable, but less overall knowledgeable about the players and their stories, and specifically that the preparation work that went into it.
Yeah, and like that's one thing I think me and Hunter try to do, like the preparation going into stuff. At least all of us try to do. I'm not trying to exclude Mega here, because I imagine she does try to make sure she understands something about a lot of the players that she's casting in her games. But like at the start of this Face It season, me and Hunter tried to reach out to a lot of the team to like say like, hey, we're gonna be calling your game. We just want to know a little bit about, you know, yourself and your team. And while some teams are very open to it, other teams are not. And a lot of times, like, okay, we know stuff about this player, but that's all we can talk about. Like, hey, they were good with this in the past. They were good with this in the past. It's not that right now, though. We can highlight that, but it's more like, what do you necessarily remember? Traditional sport, it's very easy to find out a lot of stuff about any player, especially one who, let's say, especially right now, you can figure out where they went to high school, where they went to college, where they went to the second college, their third college, fourth, I guess in some cases, fifth and sixth. And apparently the dude who's going to Incarnate Word 7 schools. Shout out to transfer rules going away, because that dude's had a career. But you can find so much information about just players. Like I said, high school, colleges, hometown. How tall are they? What's their stats? What's their favorite play? Anything. It's so like there's so much stuff you can really read about there. It's one thing I'm really wishing there was there for esports, because it would really help us be able to create these storylines, which are very, very important to esports at any level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the fun part about like doing sideline reporting, and my most recent work was like, okay, there's all this information, now you have to make their story special. It can't just be, okay, this guy is from this town or whatever. You have to find connections between the players and teams, connections between the stats. You have to not necessarily just say, okay, this player had this stat, why did they have it, what was the reason, what happened in that game that caused it, and relay that to the audience.
Yeah, let me ask you, have you done sideline reporting? Like, have you actually been able to, what sport do you do sideline reporting in?
I did it. I've done 3 or 4 now. I did basketball, wrestling, volleyball. I think there was one more, but at least those 3, yeah.
I'll say this: volleyball, I feel like, has just absolutely the last couple of years. Like, it, I didn't know how necessarily big it was before I got to college. Like, it's a lot bigger than what I thought it was. And it's always one of those things that surprised me, is that like there's not necessarily that much attention being.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The like they actually just added volleyball back as a varsity sport for Ohio high school. So like it's gonna get back into the rotations, but like theoretically, if you're good at volleyball or if you want to play volleyball, you go to the West Coast. All of the California schools, all of them are like super invested. I mean, Ohio State hosted the like national championships for men's volleyball last year, and like 6 of the teams were from like California alone. And like there's literally a team that their logo is called the Beach. So
Long
yeah,
Beach.
it's big over there, but it is not as big in the Midwest yet.
Shout out Long Beach, who I believe their basketball team plays in a pyramid.
Yep, the pyramid, baby.
That's crazy.
Fun fact, the pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee used to be where the Grizzlies played before it became a Bass Pro Shop. I'm not lying. That used to be a basketball arena. Now it's a Bass Pro Shops with a hotel in the top 3 stories of it.
No, I believe you. That's crazy, though.
God,
Yeah.
I went to Memphis once. I did not go to the pyramid in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm honestly disappointed in myself about that.
Yep.
But I mean, when you're doing the sideline reporting, like you said, you're trying to create those storylines based off a little bit there. Going in, I imagine you had to have like a certain thing of notes already written down. Like, hey, if this is going on, I can talk about this. This is going on, I can talk about this. This player's doing well. This player is maybe not doing so well. I have this. And I imagine you could also easily translate that over to esports as well. But like, what was the main decider for maybe some of the things you were picking to really report on from the sideline?
So it kind of is 2 factors. It's kind of importance of the season and importance of like things that haven't been talked about yet. So like I always like to watch back the past couple broadcasts. It's like, okay, they've been talking about Jeremiah Smith for 3 games straight. Maybe we don't talk about Jeremiah Smith for another complete game straight and give somebody else that chance. Even if he has having better statistics than somebody else, maybe you can report on something that's of more value to the audience that they haven't heard. And that's part of the preparation factor, but I think when I'm also picking it, I'm also looking at something that I can have that's a little bit flexible, because as the sideline reporter, again, it is not necessarily my show. I want to be able to make the show go as smooth as possible. I want to be in communication with the production team, in communication with the broadcasters, to make sure that when I am ready or when they are ready for me, I can deliver that information, but I don't want it to be a hiccup in their show. So kind of finding the right moment to stick things in, where if like when I was doing wrestling, they wrestle from the smallest amount of weight to the highest amount of weight. I don't want to talk about the smallest amount of weight guy right at the end after his match was 10 matches ago. So it's kind of timing those things, putting them in the right spot, and then finding just interesting stories. And a lot of that comes from research. I found out about the Ohio State wrestling head coach got into like a serious car accident last year and like barely survived by this miracle, and nobody had talked about it yet. So I'm like, why not? I'll do a reporting on that. But it kind of just depends on day to day.
That's almost insane that like you feel like that'd be a story that gets brought up almost every every match, especially if like, hey, here's the coach. Especially because you think in almost any other sport out there, that is like the first thing that probably gets talked about when they're talking about someone, or not even a coach, but just if something like that happened to anyone on the team, whether it be a player, a coach, or someone in the management, that would normally probably be talked at some point during every kind of game, because like, hey, there's also this thing that they're playing for. They're trying to make sure, like, could say you're trying to build a story, like they're trying to play this, or they're trying to play better to really maybe help out this person who's like hurt or something.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also there is kind of a bit of understanding that like all of the people in the production room for at least these Big Ten Network shows are all students. So they're all possibly learning. They might not know the sport of wrestling. A lot of them just signed up for the shift to work it. So like that's when it's kind of important to have somebody that like knows the sport beyond sideline, or like knows all these stories, because then it again helps out the production room to help understand. Usually the idea is you give them like a script of like your 3 or 4 sideline hits before the game so that they can like set up graphics for it. But it is also like I've completely had to go down like a different road on some of my sideline hits, where it's like, okay, here's my stat about this guy. He was doing really well this last game. Well, today he sucked. So now we got to talk about that.
That's like, it's always so funny when that stuff like that happens, because you know that people are always trying to maybe put people in good lights and talk about their like their success, but there's like, oh dear God, they're just not having it. Oh God, I have to talk about why this person sucks.
I had a famous one that I remember for basketball, and Ohio State was playing Bellarmine in women's basketball. And the game before Ohio State played Bellarmine, Bellarmine for the first time in program history held their opponents to 0 points in the first quarter. Like insane feat, and it was going awesome. And I did the hit at the end of the first quarter in the Ohio State game. Ohio State, of course, held them to 0 points. So for the first time in history, I'm like, man, it's literally the complete opposite of my sideline hit. What do I even do here?
I think you just spin it. You immediately spin it into something where it's like, they did this last game. Now we're doing it to
Not
them.
today.
They're learning how it feels. God, like,
Yeah.
I always feel so bad when you see those kind of score lines happen in college basketball, especially women's college basketball, because they play quarters instead of halves. I think there was like an SEC matchup like last week where one of the teams only scored 1 point in the second quarter and ended up losing by like 10.
Yeah.
It's like, you kind of deserve just to lose because you only were able to somehow find 1 point. But at the same time, it's like, even if you scored like 4 more buckets, the game could have been different. Oh my God.
But it does build for good interviews, I will say. As a sideline reporter is like your secondary job. You interview head coaches and MVPs, and like I went up to the Bellarmine coach and was like, all right, so who needs to step up? And she was like, everyone, and walked away. And I was like, okay, drop the mic, okay.
That's one of those moments where if I was a coach, I would just kind of stare at the person who's asking me the question and then just walk away. Like, you know the fucking answer, man. You just want me to say it. Oh dear God. I can never be a coach, because I would honestly snap at people for asking dumb questions.
I mean, that's the fun part though. Like when I was covering the Cotton Bowl, I got to talk with one of the reporters that's like he's in the old guard. He's been there for like 40 years. He's been covering like everything Ohio State's been doing, and he's like, I always try to either make the coaches very angry or laughing, because if they're doing one of the two, they're telling the truth. Their emotions are out on full display. So if you can ask a dumb question that gets a response, I mean, it's a good question.
Never looked at it like that. Hunter, and Megan, we might have to start asking dumber questions.
We could, honestly. We almost should. We to be fair, when we do like the CGL stuff, it feels like we have a couple silly ones in there from time to time, but it's usually the same like 4 or 5 ones typically. But you're right, we need to get more silliness in here.
It's like my go-to question anytime I'm just trying to anytime I'm just randomly typing into quick play chat, like, hey, what's your favorite cheese? And that's it. Just setting it off.
I'll ask. We'll be waiting sometimes for teams whether the lobby's messed up, and I'll say, "Hey, so what'd y'all have for dinner?"
Yeah.
Something simple like that.
What do you think is the dumbest question you ever asked to a coach or a player on the sideline?
Okay. So I have my go-to final question because I always like ramp up to the stronger and stronger questions, and then I finish with what's your favorite flavor of ice cream. But there was one coach that like went off on a tangent. He's like, I'm an ice cream expert. So it depends on where you go. And he like broke down the regions of Ohio and what his favorite flavor is if he goes up to Cleveland or if he's in Columbus area. And I'm like, sweet. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that information, but I asked the question, I guess.
You're getting this man's personal tier list and you don't
Yeah.
know what to do. You're not appreciating it for what he's telling you. He's giving you the cheat code. You're just sitting there bewildered out of your mind.
just
Yeah.
nodding and smiling.
Mhm.
Smile
I will
away,
say-
boys.
I asked some generic questions. I was doing a volleyball game for Troy versus Virginia. And the Troy head coach, super nice guy. He like explained all what he wanted to do and stuff. And I'm like, so how do you want to play today? And he's like, well, we're going to put 6 players out on the court. We're going to try and hit it over the net. And we're going to play after the whistle. And I'm like, you got it, man. You got it.
Oh, I
straight
love
to the
that.
point.
Yeah.
Didn't explain exactly what he wanted to do. 100%. Good answer.
That-
Good answer.
I love that. I love that level of sarcasm. That is the sarcasm I grew up on that I like to throw in from time to time. I don't always get to do it as the one asking the questions, but I love that. I appreciate that so much.
It's like the time a player asked me like, "Hey, can you unban me?" I was like, "Buddy, I don't have power."
Yeah.
I said, "Buddy, I don't have that power. I barely have the power to be here."
What about casters start the game? That's an easy one.
Yes, to start the game. Okay, I'm on it.
Do it right now for you, buddy.
Yeah, I got you, man. Just let me find my mouse. It's somewhere here. Oh
Yeah.
shit, my cat took it.
yeah.
I think that's also one of the interesting things that kind of transpired from doing so much sports is now like I treat it much more that like I'm not doing like a Twitch broadcast if I'm like doing an esports broadcast. I try to treat it like, okay, the audience is out in the audience. I'm not like talking directly to them. I'm not going to try and let them distract me or anything.
Mega, what about you? What's your dumb go-to question? Or your go-to dumb question?
If you're talking, we can't hear you.
That's funny. That's funny.
That is.
I forgot I put my mic up because I put my headset down for a second. That's funny. I was saying I actually am surprised that I don't like remember, because for a while there I kind of got stuck doing all the interviews for CGL, and I remember I was just more so pissed off that players could not like enunciate and speak words for longer than 3 seconds, than ever asking goofy questions. I could have asked so many goofy questions. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think if there's any I ever asked. I mean, like this podcast has the goofiest question I ever asked, which is where we just talked about Blue's Clues for like however many episodes.
I think it
There's a
lasted
lot of
37.
episodes.
37.
Here, Llama, because this has been one thing that we've touched on in the past a lot when we talk to other producers and other casters, especially with you working in traditional sports and talking to coaches and talking with players. How important is media training to coaches and players? Because we always talk about how in esports, especially if you have those aspirations to be someone who wants to be in the top tier, you need a little bit of it. We've talked about how some of these teams and orgs really need to give their players some media training just on how to properly act. What is your kind of what is your difference between your collegiate sports and maybe sometimes what you get with esports?
I think it's a fine line because I think from doing like a bunch of Ohio State stuff, it's cool to see players that can talk, explain themselves, and like especially players that are not from the United States. Like Ohio State's women's basketball team has a lot of players from like Finland and different places from the EU. So it's cool to see that, but then you get the other side of that, where like you get an interview with Ryan Day, and everything he said is like blocked behind coach speak. And so like you have to ask very like delicate questions to get the answers you want, or else it's just going to be like, all right, this is no, it was me. It's my fault. We as a team, we're going to do it together. And it like devolves into that. So I think there's a good thing about just having like raw talk from a player, even if it isn't clearly enunciated at some points, because then you can just try and ask good follow-up questions and guide it. But I think there is benefit to media training and getting them ready for interviews and speaking. But again, I think there is a thing is almost too much where a lot of the coaches in physical sports won't say what they truly want to say.
And sometimes you do get what they truly want to say,
Yeah.
and it leaves you some great sound bites. Shout out Mike Gundy, the I'm 40.
Yeah,
I'm 40.
I mean, but it's something we'd have to talk about a lot, because esports players, a lot of the times, high school, college, maybe just out of college, very young, don't normally know how to act when they have those questions being asked to them. And it is like there's no training. Like you said, there's the coach speak with coaches. Players have kind of been told the same thing, like, hey, understand, you're almost basically doing it. You know, like, you have to treat this as a job interview, because if you're someone who's being looked at as maybe someone who's being considered for a draft pick, how you conduct yourself in those kind of on-field interviews really goes a long way. Esports, though, I feel like it's different, because I feel like there's that expected awkwardness for it, where like, hey, they're gonna come in, they're gonna say some really dumb shit, but then they're also gonna be able to tie it back into something that actually happened in the game, and it's gonna at least make it salvageable. But then you have some players just come in, and it's like, you can tell they're still very much acting like they're talking with their friends. So it's like, it was a great fucking game. I can't believe we fucking won. Like we all played like ass, but somehow we won. Like, yeah, there's the heat of the moment type stuff where you like, okay, I can understand why you're cussing, but this has been like 5 minutes. You don't need to be doing that, man.
Yeah,
Hey,
and
no, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I think it's interesting because we kind of get to be the teachers, and although it is kind of funny seeing like players that have never done it before or that like built-in awkwardness, we as the broadcasters get to be the one that teach them how to do a good job or teach them how to be on a broadcast element, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah, and just all I was gonna say, like, obviously, teaching them is cool and all, but like, you're looking at very positive sides of the spectrum here, and like having, faith of just like, oh, like, even like the enthusiasm and swearing on broadcast, I would take that sometimes. But like, there truly were there's been, I could give you 5 examples off the top of my head of different players who, you go to interview and you're like, oh my goodness, you're now officially the number 1 seed going into the playoff. Da, 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 how's everything feel? And they're just like, yeah, it's good. We're winning games. Like, that's their response. Like, they just absolutely have no sort of like presence with it, because I don't know if it's like, stage fright or what have you, but it ultimately just comes down to just feeling silly.
Like, and that's sometimes maybe the worst things, where it's like they're very low energy, giving you the shortest answers possible, because it's like you want a little bit more, but they're giving me like, what was your guys' game plan going into today? They're just like, we just wanted to. That's it. Thanks, man. You're really helping us out here. I also think like there's only been a one time where I think we actually abruptly ended an interview, mostly because the player just actually started to really attack the other team for no fucking reason. Like, almost like, if it was something that was said in a school, like, hey, yeah, go to the principal's office, you're probably getting suspended. Just very interesting. But here, let me ask you this now. Like, you recently graduated from college, right? Recently graduated
Yep.
from Ohio State. Again, congratulations on that. But now you're starting your, like, I'm not gonna say career because you've already started that a while ago. What is necessarily the next thing, next sport, next opportunity? Like, what's the next thing you're really hoping to be able to get into? It could be esports, it could be traditional sports, it could be on the production side, it could be on the casting side. Like, what are you really eyeing at here? Like, what's the next thing you really want to do?
It's kind of everything. I think this phase right now is a little bit interesting because this is when every single sports company is hiring. Right now in January is when everybody is sending their applications out for, especially baseball is one of the biggest sports sectors of, like, they're hiring on-air hosts, they're hiring broadcasters, they're hiring people there. So right now my job is updating all my show reels. I need to update my main combo show reel. I'm building 3 new show reels for different sports and different esports I cover. I just built my brand new Sideline show reel alongside that and kind of fitting them into my personal website that I built. So that's task number 1. And then number 2 is kind of just opening up and fighting at every moment. Like today I couldn't go out and run because we have 12 inches of snow outside, but did a bike inside. And while I was biking, did some job applications. And while I was doing that, doing other stuff as well, fighting for any sort of entrance I can find. So I think the pipe dream would obviously be either NHL broadcaster, play-by-play broadcaster, or tier 1 esports broadcaster I'd love to do Apex, but I mean, wouldn't mind anything else. So finding the opportunities that are going to get me there. And luckily enough, I've filled up my Monday to Friday through, like, I think February at this point. So feeling pretty good, but at the same time would love a full-time job if possible in sports, or a place I can specifically hang my hat on. That's not just sending me PayPal invoices every couple of weeks.
I I hope you find that. I really do, because especially sports broadcasting, I feel like a lot of people growing up, if you didn't want to play in sports but you still want to do something with sports, the broadcasting side is still like probably the thing everyone really wants. And NHL broadcasting is very interesting because we briefly talked about hockey here. Actually, we really very rarely touched on hockey here. I think hockey is one of the more fun sports to just watch. And it's interesting right now because I feel like there's a lot of hockey being played. There's a lot of leagues as well that are popping up. Like ECHL, I know, is growing every year. It seems. I think they're actually about to eclipse the number of teams in the NHL, which is insane when you think about it. But like, is it trying to stay in Ohio where or is like, are you willing just to go anywhere with it? Like,
it's kind of complex. I think there's a lot of factors. If I could stay in Ohio, that's my dream. I think I'd probably stay close to Ohio, and I'm kind of targeting some more like high school and college esports right now, or not esports, physical sports right now, to see if I can stay in Ohio, build that alongside my esports stuff, because I'm pretty close to a full-time job in salary with what I've been working in all my esports events. So if I can have just a little bit more push from the sports side, I could stay in Ohio. But it's also, there's the old adage, if you want to be a sports broadcaster, you have to be ready to move to rural Idaho to cover the potato spud hens or something of their baseball team. So there are multiple factors. I love my family. I live with my family. My girlfriend is 25 minutes away, and I don't want to like uproot her life. She said she would come with me, but like, I don't want to say, okay, we're going to Idaho, you ready to move in a week? So I think the job has to be right, or it has to be able to support my other things. And maybe I go to a place without internet and I lose all my esports stuff, and I just wouldn't want that either. So
yeah. So if you're given the opportunity to let's say broadcast or be the MC for the Armorillo, I think it's the Armorillo Sod Poodles, you would take it.
I mean, I think I'd look it over, but I'm kind of open to anything. And as much as I'd love to end up in the NHL, who knows? I mean, I garnered a lot of connections in field hockey. I'm exploring stuff in that. Ice hockey, kind of everything. So it'll just depend. I think it depends on the job offer. It depends what it is. But I mean, right now, like I said, especially on the esports side, I'm grinding to find more teams. I've built up a couple different regions of Counter-Strike. I'm contracted to a couple different Rocket League places, and with all my college and high school work, I'm in a pretty good spot, but definitely would like more.
Like more, but at the same time, like you said, you kind of like that stability with the full-time
Yeah.
position, which again, I think that's what everyone kind of wants, just that stability. And then you can kind of go out and do everything else you do with a little bit less on your mind and maybe your shoulders a little bit, knowing that you're okay.
Yeah, and even on the production side too, there might be a job opening at Ohio State, basically doing what I was doing as a student, but as kind of like the assistant manager type deal. So we'll see if that ends up materializing, because I love the production stuff too. So it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know, but I do know, but I don't know.
Yeah. And that, like, that's something when I came out of college, like, I sent out so many applications. Okay, it was originally I want to stay around where I went to school. Then it was, okay, I'm going to expand to the areas that I know. Then it was like, fuck it, entire country.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this final quick one here. In order, like, go in order from, and you can do it with esports and traditional sports. Like, list your favorite things from top to bottom. Like, what is your favorite thing to broadcast from top to bottom?
I think battle royales are my number one. With all the stuff I've covered, maybe it's because I started in Apex, but like, I know the random element and getting all these different teams, and with Apex you get the kind of open structure where any 3 guys could just sign up and run the pro league and make millions of dollars together. I think that's super cool. I think battle royales with their kind of luck element that you get with the RNG is super cool. League of Legends is up there. I spent 5 years learning to broadcast League of Legends and learning all that goes into it, the complex nature, the structure, the $1 million and faker that all of the sport has to offer. And then it probably goes ice hockey and then everything else.
What's the worst one?
The worst one. Oh man, as much as I had fun with the rowing broadcast, rowing is it's tough to make up new things to say for 10 different races that are doing the exact same patch of water over and over and over again. So I would do another rowing broadcast, but it's kind of like you need a good color commentator to really make the show.
I'm gonna be honest, man. If someone came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to do a rowing broadcast?" I would say, it sounds fun, but it's not for me. I would just like, sorry, man, I'm not gonna do this. Thank you for thinking of me, but no.
No, listen. If they pull up, someone tells me you want to do a log rolling cast, I'm like, bet your ass, get me in there right now. Let's do it.
I will do anything that shows up on ESPN 8. Let me go do the slippery stairs. Let me go broadcast that.
Oh my god.
Shout out to Street Fighter, because they showed up on ESPN 8 back in like 2018.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Cherry pit spitting as well. That was also a thing. Shout out to whatever fucking city in Wisconsin does that. But Hunter, Mega, you guys have any questions for our guest here tonight?
Oh, we always have questions.
Besides your normal ones?
Oh, well, yeah, set us up for the normal ones. Buster.
If you guys don't, then Hunter, you go ahead.
Mega, do you? I could probably cook with like 15 seconds of brain power.
Alright, so I need to distract for 15 seconds. What's your favorite ice cream flavor, Llama?
It's chocolate, straight up chocolate. And specifically, I'm going to pull a coach's thing here. You got to get it from Grader's. Medium chocolate, chocolate syrup, chocolate ice cream. That's it.
Okay, I'm going to double down there. Are we talking straight out the tub, or are we talking like a waffle cone, or what? Like straight in the bowl?
Milkshake.
Oh,
Milkshake.
okay. I haven't had a good milkshake in a long time now. Like a long time.
You don't have cookout where you... I know that. So you want to be able to... I want to be able to compare my favorite milkshake to yours.
Wait, which one's your favorite, Dex?
Chocolate chip cheesecake.
Ooh, nice. We have this local place called Mr. G's, and they open in like a month, thankfully. But
What, you can't walk there right now in blizzard-like conditions?
Well,
Yeah.
to be fair, they wouldn't be open regardless, but just a simple chocolate
Cowards.
vanilla twist on a waffle cone. Simple, delicious. I love it. I'm a coward. Yeah, you ain't gonna be a coward,
I
but
always
you
just
know,
want, I always just want to say, what are you, 5?
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Don't think so.
All right, Hunter, go ahead.
All right, cool. The actual question, the real question that we've been teasing this whole time, Llama, if that is your real name, um, uh, obviously all of us within, whether it's especially in esports, I'll say we tend to have, whether it's a gamer tag, an alias, username, basically. So as this is alluding to, why did you decide on the name Llama, specifically the Llama 77?
Oh, it's pretty simple. My favorite animal, and it's my favorite number twice. It's a llama, and it's a 7-7. That's it.
I love that because we've had that answer a lot. That starts with, "Oh, it's pretty simple," and then it is not quite as simple.
Yeah.
You are short, straight, and to the point. Normally, we have people just explain it for a couple minutes, but I think that might be the fastest it's ever been explained, other than maybe when we had someone whose online name was also just their real name.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like, well, I can't really ask this question, can I?
Yeah, Hunter.
Guy got to put something else up.
Yeah,
Hey,
Hunter.
it's worked like 95% of the time. We can't complain yet. All right.
No, I'm trying to make a joke to your name.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been a guest on this podcast yet. Unlike you narcissist.
That wasn't my choice.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Just for a quick context, Llama. The other day, we were supposed to put something else
2 weeks
together.
ago.
Instead, yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. Me and Mega decided to pull a funny one on Dex, and we made him the guest of his own podcast. And made
Nice.
him go through all the questions, everything like that. And he had zero idea up until we started recording, and he was quite happy about it, as you could tell.
Yeah.
I love how you say you and Mega, like I had any hand in that project besides
You
you
did.
DMing me saying we're doing this.
And I said, "Are you down? I'm going to do this. You ready?" And you said yes. So that made us, we were 50-50 here at that point, Mega. That's how it works.
I think your math is off.
Ah, well, someone's has to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, some math can be off. Honestly, I think it's very telling that if your favorite number is 7, you know, I don't know if I would rep a cannibal number like that, but hey, you do you.
Cannibal?
What?
Because
What?
7, 8, 9.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, 7, 8, 9. So
7 did eat 9. It's kind of messed
Don't
up,
know-
honestly.
yeah, like I don't think I've seen an apology about that anytime. So like, anytime
Yeah.
7 wants to come forward
Yeah.
on that.
God,
And nor will there be.
God, we're 6
It's
years
the best
old.
number.
This is what we put Dex through every single week for the last year. This has been his life.
I
know he loves it.
literally I just keep doing dumber and dumber jokes in hopes for the day that I'm kicked from this server. It hasn't happened yet, but I'll make it happen. I'm working on it.
I'll kick
Anyway,
myself from the server first.
anywho, there's my typical question, which unlike Huntertain, who has a whole little name thing going on, I just like to spew hate for the sake of spewing hate. So,
Goodness.
I want you to think back through all of the broadcasts you've ever done. You know, whether it's sports, esports, what have you.
Yeah.
And you know, you're sitting there, you're working, trying to do your thing. What is one thing that has absolutely grinded your gears?
British people.
Now- Okay.
Yes!
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 We win!
Nick
you like to
NCS, I'm
elaborate?
coming for you.
Who?
Nick NCS, producer and famous British man, you could say. I tried. I said I've given him the option to come over to America, and he said no. He just wants to sit in his pajama onesies doing little production stuff. No, Nick and I are best friends. Just as a forward, I've worked like half of my broadcasts all time with him, and he's the GOAT. But he is also British, so grinds my gears.
You know what? One of our friends who's British also refuses to come over here. We've gone to both I've gone to the EU to see him. A lot of other people who've been on this podcast have gone over to the EU, not necessarily to see him, but he's just been at events. But he refuses to come over here. He goes to is it Jamaica? It's Jamaica, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, he was at Jamaica.
Yeah, he goes to
year,
Jamaica to visit family, but he won't, come like another 200 miles up to the United States.
I don't know. I'd fucking deck him on site. Wouldn't even.
So, yeah.
I would not let that fucker get off the plane. Are you fucking kidding me?
It would be we would deck him with love and and a clothesline, but we would also just deck him.
Fun fact: did you know Mara's actually over there in seeing spec?
Yeah, when Mara was on the podcast, they told us that they were gonna be studying abroad.
Well, yeah, but I literally Mara DM'd me today talking about seeing someone else over in EU.
A lot of people.
That's why I brought it up.
That might be the best answer we've had for this one in a long time.
It is. It has to be.
And again,
that's so good.
Short, sweet, and to the point. Again, perfect response. Oh God. Okay, but what here? Outside of the British. Outside of the British.
It's a large outside of them. Okay.
I know it's very large outside of the British, but just one extra
thing. Honestly, it's been cool to meet all the different people I've met, but man, if I had to say one thing, I don't know. I feel like, again, it can't really be broadcast related because I've dealt with people of all experience levels and that kind of happens. If I had to say one specific thing, it's when teams delay the game for a 20-minute bathroom break.
Mm.
Yep.
They say they're going to the bathroom, but then you get suspicious. This is a Dexter scenario, and you're like, okay, surely they can't be in the bathroom this long. But it's
But then you're the asshole if you're questioning.
No, right?
Their toilet time.
Yeah.
So we had someone basically answer the exact same thing. Funny enough, British caster basically said he hates NA players because they'll find any excuse to take breaks.
Yeah.
In the middle of the match, it's like, hey, I have to go walk my dog. I have to just answer this 30-minute phone call. I just need this break right now. It's like that same exact shit.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh.
I don't remember the last time we've had a stupidly long break for something really dumb.
Something really dumb?
I mean, I've had breaks because the teams had basically committed to saying, hey, we're gonna reschedule this, but the tournament organizer said no, and no one was available, and that was a much bigger problem. But I can't remember the last time I had a really dumb break.
I can't think of dumb break. I can think of unique ones like Mega. I forget if it was you or another person. The fire alarm went off. Who am I thinking of? Because this was someone in CGL. I know this. I don't remember if it was you or someone else, but the fire alarm went off, and they literally had to just, I gotta go. See ya. A solid 15, 20 minutes before we could start casting again. I can't remember.
Yes, is really long breaks. I was doing Oceania this weekend, and the team I was covering got ahead of the bracket, and we were sitting there for an hour and a half without action.
I know what that's like. I did an open qualifier with a team. Granted, they got knocked down to the lower bracket immediately and then went on a run, so they didn't have that break. But the second day, they won their first game and then had an hour and a half long break for some unbeknownst reason.
Yeah.
Why? It's Rocket League. Why the fuck is a 5-game series taking an hour and a half?
I don't know.
Oh God. It's
Oh,
something.
fun.
But guys, do you have anything else that you would like to ask Llama here?
It's just as an Ohio State alumni, someone who very much participated in these last couple of years. Favorite football player from Ohio State? It can be present day, it can be the past, either or.
There's a lot of good answers to this.
Yes,
I
there
think
is.
current day, I'll do current day and favorite player of all time.
Okay.
Because I think current day, you can't beat Jeremiah Smith. I think he's a stud. He was from day number one. He's going to be one of the best wide receivers ever in college history. So I think it's pretty easy to say him, like, for current day players, just because, like, he's the easy choice, right? He's got the most number of stats. But if I'm going, like, overall historical, I think you got to go Archie Griffin. Like, the two-timer Heisman, nobody better than him. Come on, like, those are my two.
I like that. My mother, I've become a loud football fan because she is a very loud and vocal football fan. She
Yeah.
loved JT Barrett and J.K. Dobbins. Loved both of them immensely. So I think she still has a jersey for Dobbins now, because then Dobbins went and started playing for her Denver Broncos. She lived out in Denver for a couple of years. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds for her on that player.
Yeah, I really like Travion Henderson. I think he was a very good running back. He was also one of the only running backs in the entirety of college to take 0 NIL money and donate it all to charity, which I thought was pretty cool too.
That is super cool.
Completely off topic. Like my brother grew up an Ohio State fan, mostly because like he was born in Ohio or moving to North Carolina. But I'll always just remember one thing. My brother and my dad ended up going to Ohio University of Ohio. No, yeah, Ohio University, OU. I just remember fucking Rufus decking Brutus the one time they played them, like actually starting a fist fight with them. That was so funny for some reason. I just always remember that. I think like James Laurinaitis though. That was my brother.
Okay.
Because he played linebacker before he became a lineman in high school.
Yeah, he went from like lineman to lineman coach. It's pretty good.
Yeah. But here, Llama, I haven't done this in a while. Do you have any questions for us?
No, not really. I appreciate you guys take some time to finally figure it out and get me on.
Yeah. Hey, no, and thank you for coming on, man. Like we said. Buckle your.
We haven't had a Zay showing this entire podcast, by the way. Hope
She's
you know.
been shown twice. I've picked her up to take her off my lap.
I'm pretty sure I died during one of those.
You did die, but fortunately you came back. But Llama, again, hey, no, thank you so much, man. Again, you've been very busy, and we've been trying to get you on for a while, but hey, everything finally worked out. Thank you so much for coming on. It was really great to talk to you. Like because we've been trying to get you for so long, you definitely were one of the people that we have been trying for a long time. Like when I would talk to these two about like saying like, hey, who do you want to get on? I would always say like, I want to try to get on Llama. Hunter said we should try to get on Llama as well, mostly because he knew you. He definitely knew you were a Ohio State person as well. And just trying to get you on was a big thing because one, esports and traditional sports, like I said, maybe the second person definitely the second person we've had on that have been able to do both. But you're the first one who's been able to do casting in both, which is really, really interesting to hear that perspective. So again, thank you so much for coming on, man. Hunter, Mega, thank you guys as always for joining me. Can you not sit on my... Thank you guys so much for joining me, and thank you for everyone for watching. Make sure you follow us on Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube to know when episodes go live. Again, always gonna come out every Tuesday. Make sure you join us next week for another great episode of For the Love of Prod. As always, I don't know who's gonna be the guest next week. You'll figure it out when I do. But until then, hope you all have a good week and see you next week. Bye.